Redmi K20 Pro. From the first look, its beauty, specs and price make you think that it's a flawless smartphone, but as more I get familiar with it, the more swearing comes inside of my head. But no worries, I'll try to keep it cool, at least you will feel some bitter notes of outrage through the review. Oh, and welcome to Tea Fellas, mine is Bogdan and let's dance with that guy. Starting from the outer look, the smartphone is gorgeous. Being specific, such shimmering back is the first one I see on the market. There's no button for voice assistant, unlike in Xiaomi Mi 9, which I'm only happy about. The main camera set is right in the center, causing no rattling sound while lying on the table, and finally they stopped imitating game with Apple. Definitely a thumbs up. Among other positive news, it's worth to note a mini jack and the front without a notch or punch holes. Now let's get into subtleties and some consistent screw-ups. And opens the list here, the absence of liquid protection and wireless charging. You cannot put a memory card inside and USB Type-C is just for beauty here, because it's the first generation port that speaks for the low data transfer speed. LED is included, but it lives in a pop-up camera and can only be seen from the upper side, which means almost never in real life. It seems to me that Xiaomi engineers have some kind of a challenge to find the lamest place for it. Around the camera you will find a blue backlight that looks cool but has almost no sense. For instance, if LEDs were white and a bit more shiny, that could be a nice base for the front flash. Well, unfortunately. Moving on, the backlighting and sound effects can be turned off if they start driving you mad, and believe me, sooner or later it will happen. Do you remember the self-preservation feature in Zenfone 6? The mechanism in K20 Pro does the same stuff, however not quick enough, which is why the current parody on Face ID not only has a low protection level, but also doesn't make life happier with its speed. Some kind of magic happens with the fingerprint reader. It's optical, which is good, but works poorly, which is bad, because even the most thoroughly set fingerprint from the cleanest hands in the world has the 50% chance to be recognized as well as not to be.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
What you see in front is how scanner works when it's in a good mood. From its location we can guess the display here is AMOLED. For those living under a rock, I explained that in-screen fingerprint readers and IPS are not yet compatible. By the way, the same technology allows to create a very efficient always-on display with the clock, funny wallpapers, battery status and notification icons. So to say, diagonal is 6.39 inches and resolution is Full HD+. No color space coverage is stated, so we can definitely question the screen calibration quality. However, the advertised DC dimming really works. It's pretty comfortable to look at the dim screen in the dark for a long time, although I can't say the display is very gentle for my eyes, cause after all I prefer good IPS instead of AMOLED. On auto settings the display is juicy with cold color tones, on standard it's more warm and less saturated. I have no claims to the viewing angles, but the brightness range could be wider. For example, the maximum backlight on a sunny day is sometimes not enough to check whether you do a nice selfie or not. The hardware. The chipset in K20 Pro is Qualcomm Snapdragon 855, Adreno 640 stands for graphics. Check out the overall processor specs with a list of memory versions, ours is underlined. In performance the smartphone shows zero issues. If there's an adequate app in the world that will crash or make the phone laggy, then I can assume it was either created by a stupid junior developer or was made on purpose with unbelievably high demands and won't slow down on more powerful devices. If only I could name at least one. The OK optimized games run impressively fast even on the top graphics, but it's for the efficiency. There's one big flaw: K20 Pro tends to hit quicker than my butt cheeks in jeans while in traffic during the summer. Pretty often it remains hot even after simple apps like Messenger or Apple Music. If you decide to use a certificate for 1 hour of premium in World Tanks Blitz, get ready to imagine the melting aluminum, cause in half an hour you might want to get some haptic glows, but definitely not for enhanced gaming experience. After 80 minutes of non-stop gaming just for this review, device's frame became a cooking stove with my fingers roasting on it. So to say, after such loads, the battery of K20 Pro went down to the half from the maximum charge. In fact, Snapdragon 855 is kinda a volcano that erupts in many smartphones. That's why I'm not surprised with its hot behavior during gaming. But all the blames in terms of heating in daily tasks go straight to the soft software, but before I begin that butt hurt, let me finish with the rest. By looking at the giant 4000 mAh battery and results from Geekbench, we would assume that the smartphone will easily live 1 day and a half, but the reality is cruel. It is essentially easier to bring the battery down to zero in 1 day having only one SIM card plugged in. In short, K20 Pro is far from bold 2 days between charging. The battery goes from 0 to 100% in 1 hour and a half with the native power adapter. If you need details, put video on pause now to check the special measurements. Hey, don't get too relaxed, it's audiophiles time. The sound in Xiaomi smartphones have always been smooth, a bit dull and puffy. Basically, the new Redmi has the same taste, however keeping it on a slightly lower level. You can almost get rid of it by using some players like Hybe Music. Everything is okay with details, without bumping treble. Lows and mids sound adequately as for the headphones, making the picture quite standard, but without some biting highs. The speaker is only one in the phone, leaving down below it emits pleasant, not so loud sound. You can hear bass, and reaching the maximum volume even on the close distance, your ears won't start bleeding, so you can easily enjoy watching YouTube and movies without headset and playing PUBG Mobile, hearing all steps and shots of enemies. Speaking of shooting, China didn't bless K20 Pro with outstanding cameras. The main set of 3 is mostly boasting with a standard lens. The ultra-wide one gives kinda soapy picture, and telephoto lens always wanna play magic with the clarity, trying to pump up the sharpness. The main camera shoots without heavy flows, but still not ideal and frequently missing the focus. Object outlines are smoked, the highlighted areas glow with halos, and dynamic range is quite mediocre without HDR, and exposure is especially jumpy on photos taken with this mode. Partially, you can solve the problem by using Google Camera, that by the way works nifty here. It helps to get rid of artifacts on the outlines and do not mess with the exposure, however has a little shortcomings with not enough gamma. In this regard, the stock camera is even better. Frankly speaking, unless you have some preconception that Xiaomi for that price should give better photos than Samsung, you will probably be happy about K20 Pro camera. Also, in the stock camera app you can use night mode, but almost always it's worse than night sight from Gcam. The mentioned issue with the focus became even more aggressive here, and overall I cannot call the outcome in pictures good. If scoring, I would give it a 3 out of 5. Not more. The video comes in 4K, it's nice, the sharpness of clips is just okay, deal with it. Program stabilization requires a hard cropping, which is not okay, and the stabilization has the feeling that the operator is drunk and barely holds the balance. Well, damn. Oh, and our beloved artifacts and branded Xiaomi noise is here as well. Enjoy! Moving to the selfie camera, it brings mostly nice photos and even catches the focus normally. The faces come out sharp, the background is neatly blurred. Now that's what I call a nice job. The only warning is to give up taking pictures on the contrast lighting, and better not use HDR. It hides the clarity too much, making the final photo way too unnatural. So all this covered before outraging. Now let me tell you about this software. We're all kinda familiar with MIUI, and I won't spare time speaking about its look and features. Okay, maybe the dark theme is worth to notice. Now it's all about problems with this firmware on this specific device. K20 Pro has got NFC, and theoretically you have access to contactless payments, but Google Pay just refuses to work correctly, and when the miracle with Open happens, the app just crashes in a while. Honestly, we couldn't make any payment transactions with this device, despite all the efforts and manuals we found on the internet. Even the well-liked gestures became disadvantages for me, as when you use Swift keyboard, the phone constantly misrecognizes the gesture swipe from the edge. Next, all third-party apps are dropping out. For example, Galaxy Fit was impossible to set correctly, as after the connection the app crashed and refused to open again. A couple of times the smartphone decided that it's a high time to restart without asking me a permission, and the list of such bugs is too big to take your time. It could be a nice joke saying that the only working in the right way mechanism is the one responsible for removing a card drawer. If only it wasn't a joke. What happens with the software here is driving me crazy. Summarizing the stuff, I think that Xiaomi forgot that their roots are coming from the field of firmware. The software in K20 Pro is screaming out loud for more attention. That, of course, makes it less tasty for buyers. If we imagine that MIUI will finally be great again and start acting adequately, then the final list of die-hard shortcomings will bear the absence of liquid and dust protection, shady advantages of popping up front camera as well as middle range main camera's quality. For the rest, and ain't no joking, with that smartphone you will feel like one of the guys who don't look at explosions, as it has a nice screen, big battery, powerful hardware, mini jack and a remarkable style. All I can say in the end is when the firmware, or rather if the firmware gets healed up, or you're ready for the mind love set in the raw global version or waiting for its official release, then I can safely recommend K20 Pro for buying. If you like this video, hit the like button and also subscribe and ring the bell to stay tuned for more cool content. My thanks for watching and cheers!